I think that's pretty good. So what I want you to do is, who hasn't had a turn yet? Yep. So you'll do the salting part. So whack some gloves on. So that's roughly about a kilo. It's going to be slightly less because there's some excess there, but let's assume it's about a kilo. So what we want to add here is 2% salt, about a tablespoon and a half of salt. So I use Himalayan salt. This is like the purest kind of salt. You can get Celtic sea salt, it's pretty good. Malden is another option. This is a fine one. It's very good for making fermented vegetables. So a tablespoon, which is this baby here.
So what's your ratio for the cabbage?
2%. So for a kilo, it would be 20 grams of salt. So that's about, I've measured this in the past. So you do about a tablespoon. Yeah, that's good. And a half. That's good?
Yeah.
That's good. Perfect. That's it. So we're doing sauerkraut here, by the way. So you're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Round of applause. So then what I want you to do now is just use your hands and just massage that in. So you can, all this excess stuff, you can just pull it out, whack it here. So you guys following me what's happening here? So we've shredded the cabbage, we've salted it. Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to extract the moisture out, and we're trying to set the pectins. So we don't get like this soggy, insipid sauerkraut. So we're extracting the pectins, we're drawing out the good bacteria, the lactobacilli. What we're doing here is what we call a wild fermentation. I highly recommend, if you're making it for the first time, use a starter culture. I actually know Gary personally, and he extracts plantarum, which is the key lactobacilli that occurs in cabbage, and puts it into a nice little starter culture. Very good, because this is a long fermentation. So if you do a wild fermentation, have you done it before?
My father used to make
Your father?
literally buckets, like
Wow.
big barrels of sauerkraut.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So watching that is not
Long.
what my dad would do.
Yeah.
He would just bucket it
Yes.
and push it in. Like he made this big wooden, they call it a stomper. It's like a big woolen mallet.
Yes.
And he actually had to cut the cabbage. He made a thing with a blade in it, a big thing, yeah. And he was like shredding.
Proper.
Yeah.
That's a traditional stuff,
he
yeah?
was selling it, so you can freeze it. He froze it. Yeah, so it was just always the ratio of, like I've got a recipe, 20 kilos to whatever, how many salt, yeah. So that I've got his recipes.
Wonderful.
So I was going to sit down and work out the ratio.
Yeah. Well, this is a
He
nice.
just pounded.
You pounded it.
And then put the salt a little bit, pound. I just bought one of those.
You got one? Nice. So what we're doing now is just to help the process along. You could pre-salt this and leave it for about an hour, which will get things moving along really nicely. But we're doing this all on the fly, so we're going to just help it along with a bit of pounding and stomping, just breaking the cells open, letting the sugars out, letting the lactobacilli come out and do their job.
So if I left it for an hour and then went back to it, it'd be
Easier. So you leave it for an hour, come back, stomp it, that's it. So how about you grab a handful now and just squeeze it so you can show the group what's happening. You see all that water coming out? That's really good. So keep going. It's only a couple more minutes. So very quickly in terms of fermented vegetables, so we're using a lacto fermentation. We're doing wild here. We're taking the natural lactobacilli. We're actually converting the sugars. Cabbage is a very sweet sugar. So we're extracting the bacteria out. The bacteria are converting the sugars into lactic acid via this lactic acid bacteria in there. Lactobacillus plantarum is the main one. There's around 15 strains of probiotics in making your own ferments at home, so it's a good one. This is a long ferment, minimum of 6 weeks, 4 weeks fermenting, 2 weeks of curing. With a starter culture, 10 days. So you weigh up. Like, for instance, mashed potato or something like that. Fine. Because really it's not only about the live bacteria, it's the metabolites that the bacteria produce as well as the organic acids, the dead cells themselves, all good for the gas.
But it's still gonna have it, like, as long as it's not hot.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
as long as it's not like above 60, it's going to be fine. But don't be too concerned if you kill the bacteria. If you're having milk kefir, water kefir, fermented vegetables. Yeah, I reckon that's pretty good. Give the lady a round of applause. Thank you so much. Is there anybody that hasn't been up? I think maybe you guys haven't been up. Yeah? Have you been up?
no.
Been up? Sir? Yep. So the lovely gentleman here will do the packing section, and then we'll wrap this baby up. So we've pounded it, we've extracted it. Now we've got to actually pack it and let it ferment. So yeah, wax some gloves on. With making these type of ferments, it's pretty wise because, yeah, pass the samples around. That's some sauerkraut that was actually made by another person in the last workshop. So that is the result of sauerkraut. So that's what happens 4 weeks ago, but we did use a starter culture in that one.
So then you do the same with this one.
Yes. Well, this one I'll probably leave it longer because I haven't used a starter culture. Yeah, but that one we did use starter culture. Yeah, so what you want to do here with packing is you want to take a handful, whack it in there, and then use your pounder to just press it. Because hear this, guys, hear this. The thing that's going to stumble you most often is going to be mold. Because you don't want to go cabbage, and especially for beginners. Experienced ones, go for your life, use the salt. It's perfectly fine if you know what you're doing. Okay, so what you're doing there, you've gone a little bit fast.
Oh, yep.
That's cool. So
Yes.
pound that. So what you want to do is do a handful, pound. Because all those spaces inside can form air pockets and gaps. But we can see we've done a really good job of extracting a lot of moisture in there. That moisture is our friend. Yeah, keep going. Keep packing as much and squashing it down to limit any oxygen in that headspace. You can also be a bit more fussier with this one, especially if you're doing a raw one, like a wild ferment with no starter culture, hydrogen peroxide. This is a nice sterilizer to use to clean all your equipment. It'll kill mold spores. And it's really pure because it breaks down to oxygen in water. So it's a really pure one to use.
So that's for cleaning.
Yeah, it's one thing we forgot. But not to worry, a tablespoon of caraway seeds. So what I'm going to do is just whack that in there, get that spoon and just give it a quick mix. Because that's like kind of more traditional to have the caraway seeds in there.
And you cook it with it.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, no, there you
Never
go.
fermented it with
I'm
it.
talking nonsense then, totally.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not
It's
German.
actually, just plain.
Mhm.
And then when you actually cook it,
Then you put it.
Then you put.
There's another
caraway seeds.
German gentleman there. Two Germans here today, so it's good.
You can also put juniper berries in it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Which is very nice.
Yep.
But usually caraway seeds, you always want to actually, you roast them in the pan beforehand,
Right.
and then they open up, and you can actually smell the nice flavor.
Right.
Or you can blanch them as well beforehand.
Okay. There's some good tips here from both the audience members. So using roasting prior can give you something more authentic, and then cooking with it as well will give you something more authentic. But this is, I guess, the Mason Tops version of sauerkraut. Maybe not so traditional, but very functional.
I'm just letting you know that.
Yeah.
It's not necessary.
Yep. So what you do now is you want to make sure, we're going to wrap this up now, you want to make sure you try and clean up as much of this stuff.
Does that will go mold around?
Yeah. Yes. So try and submerge, firstly clean, use this clean cloth here, and just give it a good wipe. Especially on that inner surface. You don't want to give the mold any sort of grabbing points or sticking points to go and attach onto and spore. So yeah, just feel free to just...
Red cabbage.
Red cabbage? Yeah,
Can we?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the Mason Tops, this is a Mason Tops kit. It's got heaps of recipes in here. Kimchi is a really nice one because it's fast. It's 3 days. It's fast. It's super easy and quick. That's a great job. And so we'll get one more guest. Can't give the gentleman a huge round of applause. Well done, sir. And the last guest. Is everybody else had a turn at some point?
I'll just come another time.
Maybe you do the hands-on one. So what we want to do now is you can use the regular lid that comes with a mason, what's it called? Ball's mason jar. Balls, the brand. The problem with these tin jars is they rust really quickly. So what Mason Tops have done is they've also brought out a plastic BPA-free version. So what you do is you actually, so you grab that pickle, get some gloves on first. We'll do it hygienically. One's enough. Yeah, so just grab that. That's a pickle part. That's a one-way airlock. So you might have seen the Crocs with moats. You might have seen the airlocks with the water in there that sort of stick out. This is what, other way around, sorry. Yeah, perfect. So this is one that kind of lets the CO2 gas bubble out and it stops the stuff from going back in. And also just grab this pebble. There's a glass weight. Yes. And you just whack that in there. Yeah, that's good. So what we're doing now, and then just use this thing there and just press it down. Just make sure everything's nice and pressed down. So we want a bit of moisture to come up on that top, create a nice seal and airlock, yeah? So that looks pretty good. I'm just gonna quickly just wipe this tip here. Try and minimize as much as you can of any stuff around the edges. So we have to leave this for a long time because there's no starter culture, so there's ample opportunities for mold. A starter culture will speed up acid production almost instantaneously. So this is a riskier method. But we just ran out of time. That's cool. Yeah, so that just literally just goes on top. And then you tighten it up. And then voila, you leave this. Now this is no starter culture, so I would be checking on this after about 4 weeks. And literally this is like set and forget. You can literally, I've done this and forgotten it in a cupboard. I've made miso, forgot it in my cupboard, come back a few months later, miso, nice. Yeah, so same thing. Miso is a long process, about 6 months. You can make a shortcut miso probably in about 4 weeks. There's a recipe on our website. Leave this in a cupboard, warm spot, dark. Come back in 4 weeks, and it's done. That's it.